What a weekend for the St. Louis Blues. I am fired up on today's episode of Locked On Blues.
Hey, this is Braden Shen.
Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, a weekend recap of that 5-1 win against the Minnesota Wild, and then, of course, last night's 7-2 victory over the Anaheim Ducks. It was such a great weekend for the Blues, and I cannot wait to talk to you about that. Also, as I said, I am fired up. I am feeling really positive about maybe making a playoff appearance. And then, of course, we do have the Blues against the Predators tomorrow night. They're in Nashville. So we have a lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Blues. But before we dive into anything, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What a weekend. What a time to be a Blues fan. And I have to say, hats off to Jordan Kyrou for getting a phenomenal hat trick on Saturday's game against the Minnesota Wild. Listen, after that Penguins game, and I know we had Hunter on, I felt bad about the Blues. I was down bad. I'm not going to lie. When you lose to the worst team in the Metropolitan, I'm not going to feel good about that, especially with Colton Parayko being out. I was really apprehensive and nervous about how this team would respond with his absence. And I feel like in the game against LA and then obviously the game against Pittsburgh, I saw flaws. But then all of those flaws, all of that, I guess you can say concern disappeared against the Wild because the Wild are one of the better teams in the NHL. However, the Wild did fall back to having the first wild card spot because the Avalanche overtook the third spot in the Central with 85 points. The Wild had 79. Anyways, I want to talk to you a little bit about that Minnesota Wild game because there's a pattern this weekend, and that was Braden Shen. Shen started off the scoring in both of the two games this weekend, but he was able to get the first goal of the game. And I have to tell you, too, I have been uber impressed with Braden Shen. I'm going to talk more about kind of why I'm so impressed with him in a little bit when we talk about the game last night. But anyways, really proud of Braden Shen. Second period, Jake Neighbors scores, and then it is all Jordan Kyrou. He scored the Blues' last 3 goals. So he scored halfway through the second, and then 2 in the third. The final goal was an empty netter, and then Kyrou was able to get a hat trick. And the only goal scorer, by the way, for the Wild was Jake Middleton, and it was unreal. The faceoffs, the Blues killed it on the faceoff. They were 60%, which is something they should be very proud of. By the way, in net, it was Joel Hofer. The Wild had 18 shots on goal, 1 went in. His save percentage was a .944. Really good for him. And then another thing I wanted to kind of point out in a way, and I know this might be kind of a little bit insignificant to maybe you, but the player that had the most ice time in that game on defense was Philip Broberg. And I saw him take more of a dominant role. I know that now since Parayko's out, the other guys have to step up. But I did notice that he spent a lot of time on ice. And that to me was a good sign. I mean, actually, besides obviously Hofer's on the whole game, out of all the players, he had the most amount of ice time in general. So I was really proud of Philip Broberg, and that was such a dominant win over the Wild. And as I said, it's against a team that is one of the better teams in the Central. Obviously, the Wild won the 3 previous games the 2 teams had against each other. So for the Blues to at least take back 1 game of the series, it showed me that this team has more resilience than I gave them credit for. And either way, I think that this game just kind of sparked a little bit of that passion, that energy, that motivation again. Because after I lost the Penguins, I didn't know how this team was going to react. They could have reacted in a multitude of ways. They could have been somber and they could have been down on themselves and just kind of gave up. Hey, listen, we don't have Parayko. Our best defenseman's gone. It's going to be a struggle making it to the playoffs. But instead, this team, they played hard, absolute resilience, and they were able to make a statement against the Wild. And again, that's a team that I have nothing but respect for. Heading into the season, I expected the Wild to be a lot better than maybe people thought they were going to be just because of all their talent, young talent, especially. However, again, the Blues just had such a great win. It did not compare to last night's game. Last night's game was back home in Enterprise, honoring Captain Braden Shen on his 1,000 games. And I have to say, I love a good old video tribute. But when they began showing videos of Shenner in Philadelphia playing with his brother Luke, and then Luke came on and said how special that was for them, I got a little emotional. You know, it's funny. There's not a lot of people that can say they played 1,000 NHL games, right? But then there's a lot of people that can say that they played some of their 1,000 games alongside their siblings. So I thought that was really cool. Jeff Shen, who's Braden and Luke's dad, presented Braden. I believe it was him with the stick. And then Steen, Steener was down as well. And Colton Parayko came on the ice. And of course, Thomas and Folk. But Shen's family, his kids, his wife, his parents, they were all there. And it was such a beautiful ceremony. And then there were some other guys throughout the league, like Sidney Crosby, O'Reilly, just a bunch of guys, Luke, obviously, that came on, kind of giving him his attaboy. So I was really happy for Braden, and he deserved it. Like, that's the thing. He is such an underrated player, I think. I think he gets overlooked a lot constantly, but his dedication and devotion to the Blues is something special. They showed a video of him hoisting the Stanley Cup, and that brought tears to my eyes. It is just one of the coolest things ever to look back and think, wow, we were Cup champions not too long ago. It seems longer now, but just seeing the video just made me at least very excited. So that was nice. But let's talk more about that game last night, because the ceremony and just how special everything was. As I said, it was such a great night. It was that 7-2 win. Braden Shen, 41 seconds into the contest, started off the scoring and was able to give the Blues a 1-0 lead. But less than a minute later, only 90 seconds into the contest, Boucher was able to score. It was a nice tip-off of Neighbors, and the Blues went up 2-0. Then in the second frame, Dylan Holloway scored a power play goal, and this was Hollywood's second goal of the season. Carr, who nobody likes, scored for Anaheim a little bit after that. Again, nobody likes him. I have bias. Fox has scored his fourth goal of the season, baby. How about that? Radek Foxa. So I was happy about that. And then Matty Joe, he scored his fourth goal of the season, but this time it was shorthanded for Mojo. Again, it was like a special teams like kind of game. We go on, Anaheim scores a couple minutes in, whatever, it's 5-2 still. Jake Neighbors scores on the power play, making it 6-2. And then finally, the last goal of the game was from Sonny on the power play, making it 7-2. And Robert Thomas got the secondary assist, which makes this his 38th assist of the season. Woo! How about my boys in blue? Both teams had almost an equal amount of shots on goal, with the Blues 26, Anaheim 25. A lot of hits for the Blues last night, 25 hits, but it was such a great game. Benner was in net and looked good as always, but whoa, I was like, Mojo. And it was such a great game. And then Shen, he got a penalty for fighting last night. Like, my boy was all over the place. It was such a great game, though, for the Blues. And I feel like I am one of those people who just will praise this team and I will lift them up when needed. I'm not always negative. I tend to be negative. I'm not always negative. But I'm going to talk to you about something that I am feeling, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant. But first, Factor. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you can get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences each week, you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether it's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. Convenience meets nutrition. I love how Factor keeps you on track with healthy, delicious meals without the time consuming prep. So one thing that I like a lot, by the way, is the Korean beef bowl and the creamy Parmesan chicken. They're some of my favorites. They taste homemade, but it takes literally no effort at all. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast and use code Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Now I'm getting hungry. But you know what I'm hungry for? The playoffs. That is right. I am going to take this mic and I'm going to hold it because I am fired up. I am so fired up. I am sorry for the yelling, the screaming, the excitement has hit me, baby. You know why? You know why? Last night's game. I go to the standings after the game. 73 points. 73 points. Right now, the St. Louis Blues sit 1 game under the Vancouver Canucks, who have 73 points, but they only played 67 games. If and when the Canucks lose to the Jets tomorrow night, let's go Jets, and the Blues beat the Nashville Predators, guess who will be in the second wild card spot? The St. Louis Blues. And guess what? On the beginning of the season, we did a roundtable episode with some of the Central Division hosts of Locked On Network, right? And I said, I can see 2 Central Division teams taking both of the wild card spots this year. And baby, I am feeling good. Right now, just so you know, the Calgary Flames have 71 points with 65 games, and the Utah Hockey Club 71 points with 67 games. Obviously, everyone is still relatively close. However, I feel good about my boys in blue, and I love this team so much. You know how much I love this team. And I really do believe that the Blues have the potential. Right now, the Calgary Flames are down 1-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's what I want to see. I want these teams to lose, and I don't want it to be close. I don't need it to be close. I need my Blues in the playoffs. Tomorrow, Utah Oilers, guess what? Let's go Oilers. When will I ever say that again? I don't know. I just want to have a solidified playoff spot. And you know what? Let's get crazy. Let's get wild. Let's get insane. Why is that? Because right now the Blues have 73 points. The Wild have 79 points. It is possible. It is possible for the Blues to get the first wildcard spot. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. I'm a little delusional, but this is all I have right now. I don't have much going on besides banking on the second wildcard spot, and they're so close. They are so close. San Jose, by the way, was the first team eliminated today from the Stanley Cup playoffs throughout the National Hockey League. Assuming pretty shortly, Chicago will be eliminated. But yeah, like eliminations are happening, which makes it so real for me. And the Blues, guess where the Blues are sitting at, by the way? And all of the NHL ranking, guess where the Blues are sitting at? I'll give you a second. You can say it out loud. 16th overall. No. Oh, it gets me so annoyed, but that's why they have to push for the playoffs right now. Like, I'm just being so for real with you. Like, this is why they need to push. And I think they can do it. We're going to look at the Blues' schedule, right? Because I'm going to get more into the game about the Predators in today's episode of LOB. However, I also think it's important for me to be transparent with you to let you know where the Blues are at. So, my boys, my Blues, my life, my hope, my everything. They do have the Predators tomorrow night, but on Thursday it's a big game because they do host the Canucks. And obviously, right now the Canucks are taking our second place wildcard spot. So again, that's going to be a must win. Then on Saturday they do have the Chicago Blacks. Again, they should win that. They're hosting. It's going to be a 4-game homestand followed by the Predators on Sunday, and then next Tuesday the Canadiens. So again, some of these games they should win. Then they're back in Nashville the 27th. Avalanche, Red Wings, Penguins, Avs. Like, they have relatively easier games to finish out the season. The two games that I would be concerned about would be the Jets on April 7th and the Oilers on April 9th. Other than that, I think they should be fine. Obviously, the Avs on April 5th. So those 3 games will be tough. But this Thursday, yeah, this is a pretty big game against the Canucks, a game that this team really does need to win. They need to win tomorrow, and they need to hope that the Canucks lose tomorrow. I don't want it to be close, okay? I don't need it to be close. I think that right now, this team played the best game of the season. You know what? The 2 best games of the season this weekend. Against the Wild, against Nashville, and I am so proud of them. I am. This team, they put their effort in. And that is something that I have to give them credit for. They really do put in effort. And I just feel like they have to be rewarded some way, somehow. Is it a stretch? Absolutely. Am I fired up? Absolutely. This does look like a playoff team. Last night when I was watching the Blues, I even said, I put out a tweet. I said, this is what a playoff team looks like. I know what you're going to say. It was only against the Anaheim Ducks. Okay, well, guess what? Anaheim still at 65 points on the season. I know they're not that great, but you know what? They're still a professional hockey team. Say what you want, and this is what gets me annoyed. Oh, well, it's just this team. It's just that team. There's still professional teams in the NHL. So while, yes, they may not be, the best team, the most competitive team, I still feel like they're still an NHL team, and it was still a big win. The Blues are notorious for struggling against teams that are not so great, and we know that. So maybe for me, that's why I'm just like a little bit more pumped up and excited. But I do want to say, too, at the same time, when I am thinking about the Blues and I am thinking about the future of this team, I don't think the draft is the end-all, be-all. I think it's going to be trades. I think it's going to be signing free agents. So I do get now, I think that I've had some time to calm down. Maybe why Doug did stand pat. Do I still agree? No. But I get it to an extent too. And yes, I'm allowed to switch opinions. I'm allowed to reevaluate my thoughts because I film every single day, Monday through Friday. Let me know if you had to talk about the Blues every single day, okay? Monday through Friday for about 25, 30 minutes. If you would always be on the same point of position that you were in 20 episodes ago. You get what I'm saying? Like, my opinion does change. And did I expect the Blues to have this dominant of a weekend? I did not. And I take, whenever I say something, I stand behind it. So if I said, I don't think the Blues did this or that right, I still stand behind what I said because I said it for a reason, right? So again, I'm fired up. This looks like a playoff team, but again, they need to continue the winning. And the more they continue the winning, honestly, the more I'm going to be fired up. The more episodes we will have of me actually being fun about this team. I know I am fun, and I can be fun. I just, obviously, it's hard to be fun when you, I don't know, when your team doesn't do well. Like, I'm sorry that I have been negative, but obviously, I am feeling very positive now, and I cannot wait for tomorrow night's game for a hopeful win against the Predators. But before that, let me talk to you. I have a lot of friends, as you know, on this podcast. We have friends like all the time. But I want to talk to you about my friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. I also want you to hear about some bracket breakdown. Take a listen.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Awesome. I know. I cannot wait for March Madness, especially the women's. My Mountaineers got into that, not the men. Anyways, let's talk about this game against the Nashville Predators tomorrow night. I have to tell you, I feel good. I do. Maybe you don't. I do. Tomorrow night, obviously, the Blues lead this series. I know this is a very weird series because the two teams obviously play each other 4 times in a season. However, the two teams only met one time prior, and the Blues did win that contest late in December 7-4. Anyways, it's going to be a lot of Nashville this month. We have them tomorrow. Then we have them on the 23rd and then the 27th. Players to watch for me, obviously, when it comes to Nashville, will be Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly. I love Ryan O'Reilly, as you know. However, he is on enemy territory now, so sorry about that. Anyways, when it comes to the Blues, my boy Jordan Kyrou has, in his last 5 games, 7 points. Schneider has 4 goals in his last 5 games. And then Justin Folk, obviously, I know that we haven't talked too much about him. However, he still has those 5 assists in his last 5 games. Another thing about the Blues is that they do have a alright-ish penalty kill. Right, it's not the best. It's really, honestly, it's actually not the best. 29th in the NHL at 72%. However, Nashville has a great penalty kill at 81%, and that's 9th in the NHL. Another thing that the Blues really thrive in is their faceoff percentage, but so does Nashville. The Blues are 12th ranked in the NHL with a 51% faceoff percentage, while Nashville is ranked 7th with a 52% faceoff percentage. Now, I'm not going to say, based on those statistics, I'm nervous because I'm not, obviously. But I still feel like the Blues have that advantage still, just because they are the better team. And when I look at the Blues' last 10 games, they're 7-2-1. They beat Anaheim, Minnesota, Anaheim, LA, Washington, which Washington's a really big one. And of course, Seattle. And then when you look at the Predators, they're 5-4 in one of their last 10 games. And they beat teams such as San Jose, Chicago, Seattle, Boston, and Winnipeg. Winnipeg, obviously, that's a big one because the Jets are doing phenomenal, one of the best teams in the NHL. However, at the same time, I still feel like the Blues are going to be just fine. But on the Predators, obviously, they do have some good players like Forsberg, Marchessault, Stamkos, O'Reilly, Bunning, Craig Smith. Obviously, there's some trades that happened in Vanderez now with the Preds. And it's so weird not seeing Luke Schen's name here anymore because he was traded. But yeah, I just don't feel necessarily nervous. And maybe that's on me. I just feel like the Blues do have this game under control. And I think that's just because this team has been playing outstanding this season. And another thing that's been outstanding this season, and again, I know, listen, it's not been the best goaltending season. It hasn't. But Joel Hofer, he is 12-7-3, Finners 21-21-4. But I'm fine with that. It's not great. But it's fine. Like, the Blues just obviously struggled a lot throughout the season, so it is what it is. But I feel like tomorrow's game will be a good game. I am thinking the Blues are going to win, and obviously in tomorrow's episode of LOB, we're going to have some more details breaking up the game. So, well, breaking up, breaking down, breaking it all around. But we do have a lot to talk about tomorrow. But I am on such a good vibe right now based off of this weekend, and I just was so excited more than ever to come film today. Listen, I'm going to be positive while I can. I just really hope that this team makes it. I really do. I love the Blues. You know how much I love the Blues. This is my team. This is the team that I'm a fan of. And for my team to be in the playoffs, it would just be absolutely phenomenal because I miss playoff Blues hockey. All right, I will talk to you all tomorrow. And like always, how I end every single episode, let's go Blues.